Now we're going to be taking a look here at the Shredder, and he also has, in this example, these three minions, Bebop and Rocksteady, Wingnut, and the Rat King. Not only that, he has these tokens, which are foot soldiers, and they can become entrenched. Foot soldiers on this side have no effect, but can help out with some cards and stuff. Foot soldiers on this side cannot be removed, and you take a damage when you go through them. Right now, we're going to start off explaining a little bit about how this works, what Shredder's going to be doing. Shredder starts with 21 health when you play with two players. In this example, we only have one player on the field, but you can see here 14 for one player, not ideal, but then two players, pretty good, three players, fine, and four as well. I think it's better actually against Shredder, particularly, to not play with four, or not to play with that many players. So on your turn, you are able to maneuver and remove on a maneuver. Say you boosted your movements, because he only moves two. He moves 1, 2. If you boosted an extra 2, you could do something like that and remove 2 foot soldiers. If they were on this side and you wanted to move through there, that would be 2 damage on your hero or whoever's moving through. So in this case, Raph would take 2 damage if that were the case. So we're going to start out though because we're pretending we have 2 players, and starting at 21 health, he would start with 2 in Brooklyn. Here's Brooklyn, and we're starting with 2 foot soldiers there. And that kind of kicks things off. Shredder is trying to take over New York City, and he's got to take out all 5 of these boroughs. Borough 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then it will repeat for certain effects and stuff. From 5, it'll go back to 1. Now, these are your tokens for that. First, Brooklyn is under threat. If Brooklyn ever has fallen, we flip this card, or this token, and it shows Brooklyn has fallen. We place it there and move this here. As that happens, we're going to be flipping these, moving them, flipping them. If it ever gets here, the 4th borough has fallen, and then we have to do a 5th. We lose, and Shredder would win. So when a borough comes under threat, you put 1 foot soldier per player in that borough also. So obviously things are really going to start ramping up, and you're going to have a lot of problems with foot if you're not taking care of them as you go along. And you definitely want to take care of them as you go along, because for each time that this reaches here, this returns, and then we put another one out. So if that happens 4 more times, and then we will lose. Let's take a look at Shredder's initiative cards. So in this example, we have the 3 minions and 2 players playing. Shredder would take a turn. He moves 3. So he's just going to move 3 to the closest opposing fighter and attack them. Simple as that. So you can kind of manipulate or lure him out of places you don't want him to be, because some of his effects are greater with foot soldiers and so on. And then the end of round is advance a threat marker by 1 plus the number of boroughs with foot soldiers in them. So maybe there's an opportunity for you, for example, if it was like this, maybe what you want to do instead of removing 2 is remove 1, because you can't, or not instead of removing 2. That's a poor example, but maybe you can't remove 2. Let's say you're right here and you can only move 2 spaces and you don't want to boost. Well, you'd only remove 1 here. That would leave 2 foot, 1 in each spot. So instead of doing something like that, you move here, remove this one because of the end of round. So it's just a smart play to make, because, you're advancing the threat marker by 1 plus the number of boroughs, not the number of foot soldiers. And so that can help you a lot there. And then the right now effect on Shredder into the streets is each player deploys 1 foot soldier to Shredder's borough. That's another reason it's not as, it scales nicely, but playing with 4 players, you're suddenly putting 4 of these into Shredder's borough. That is a lot of foot soldiers and can get pretty overwhelming. So what we need to do here is take a look at Shredder's cards. He's got 5 unique cards. So he's a little bit more consistent. A deception is just a 0. When this card is put into Shredder's discard pile, shuffle his discard pile back into his deck, including this card. This effect cannot be canceled. So obviously you're trying to hit him when he's playing this card, when this card is on top of his deck and he's defending with a 0, and you can hit him for some big points. There's only 1 copy of that, 3 boost. the dishonorable Orokusaki. 2 copies. 2 attack, 2 defense. Immediately cancel all effects on your opponent's card. Okay, so you pretty much got 2 copies of a feint. During combat, if there are 3 or more foot soldiers in Shredder's Burrow, ignore the value of your opponent's card. That's another good reason to keep only 2 in each burrow max, just because of that dishonorable card there. And then Blades All Over, he has 2 copies of this, 3 attack, 2 defense. After combat, if Shredder's initiative card is revealed, put it on the bottom of the deck. Otherwise, deploy 1 foot soldier to Shredder's Burrow and deal 1 damage to each hero and sidekick adjacent to a foot soldier. As you can see, either way, that's not going to be great for you because you're deploying a foot soldier to Shredder's Burrow and you're also dealing damage. So you got to be careful about placement sometimes, especially with those 1 health sidekicks when this card comes out, Blades All Over. But the first part of it is if his initiative card is revealed. Now, if he's attacking, obviously his initiative card is revealed. So when he's defending with his card, is it's more ideal because oftentimes, not oftentimes, but there's at least a chance that his initiative card hasn't been revealed yet. Either way, you just got to keep playing the game. So really, can you do much about that? Probably not. Maybe next time, Turtles. It's a 4 attack, 3 defense, 2 copies, 2 boost. After combat, place Shredder in a burrow with the fewest foot soldiers. Then deploy 2 foot soldiers to Shredder's Burrow. Now, I thought we would, in this example, the fewest would be 3 or 2 or where I already am. So you can move him to any of those spaces. Then you're deploying 2 foot soldiers to that space. So as you can see, this could get out of hand right quickly. He's putting a lot of these foot soldiers out, and it gets dangerous the more he puts out. Then the last one, there's 3 copies of Shredhead. 3 attack, 1 defense. During combat, add +1 to this card's value for each foot soldier in Shredder's Burrow. Obviously, you want to manipulate where he goes. Some characters can do that. Some effects on cards can do that. And his own, when you're placing, can do that as well. Because this can get pretty big. The most it could get, I think, is a 4, 5, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6, so this could be a 6, 7, 8, 9. This could be a 9 attack over in the Bronx. That's another thing we need to take a look at too, because you can see that there are some boroughs, parts of New York here, that have less. There's only 4 in Manhattan. There's only 4 in Staten Island. There's 3, 4, 5 here in Brooklyn, and there's 5 in Queens, but there's 3, 4, 5, 6 in the Bronx. So obviously the Queens of Brooklyn have 5, Bronx 6, Manhattan and Staten have 4. Keeping that in mind as you're moving along and when you have the option to place foot soldiers in Shredder and such. After combat, deploy 1 foot soldier to Shredder's Burrow. Okay, so he's getting a foot soldier there as well. And obviously his defense can be super big if that is the case. So you really need to make sure you're clearing the board. This isn't like the other things in other adventures where you can kind of ignore. You have to, for some of the game, actually for quite a bit of the game, be removing these foot soldiers as you go along. So there's a lot more going on, but he's pretty straightforward. You need to keep the foot soldiers from taking over the board. And you can kind of get around the board. You can see this map. You can get around the board a little quicker around this way on the gray zones through the sewers. And on top of dealing with Shredder and all the foot that are going to be taking over the board and such, you need to be watching and being careful and taking out some of these sidekicks. Do you need to take them out? Maybe not. I think it's wise, especially against Shredder, to take out 1 at least. I've played a game where I've taken out all of them, 4 sidekicks, and the Shredder without taking any damage on any of my heroes. Well, I took damage, but I did some healing, but they ended with full health, which is insane. That's just a lot of luck, a lot of drawing the 0 for him on defense and such. But that's usually not going to happen. There's another thing. A lot of effects, and a lot of times, you get to place the foot soldiers into the spots. So if you don't think you can take that foot soldier out, it is wise not to put them on somewhere that you need to go through. For example, you could put them here, right? Because you think you're going to be able to go over it. But if the Bronx is going to turn and you won't be able to remove them, it is dangerous to put them on a main path. Kind of put them back here on a side path if you don't think that you can get to them. because if you're not going to even bother with them or whatever, and they're back there, they're not in the way. You're not taking damage, and they're not blocking for going over. Because when they're here, far more dangerous. That's just a little side tip for you as well. Anyway, that is a little bit on how to fight against Shredder. Like I said, he's a little bit more straightforward, but there is a lot going on. I hope that helps you take down the Shredder. Good luck on the streets of New York.